Cipolla & Co. Accounting firm. We've been doing the accounting for the Galaxy for the past 10 months. Will be 1 year this coming October. There are 7 members from our accounting firm who perform the daily accounting functions for the Galaxy, comprised of those of us who are in the office as well as others who spend time daily back at our other accounting office. Some of the things that we've been able to accomplish in our time here are send out an internal control memorandum. We have a draft of the employee handbook out. As Joe Purcell mentioned earlier, we are working to switch the bank functions to TD Bank from Bank of America, which we feel is going to have better controls and more capability. That's something that's been taking a while, but we're expecting the transition to be made within the next 2 weeks. So, we'll see some more added value there. In addition to the 7 of us performing work on the Galaxy, we have 2 additional employees who are performing an internal audit to ensure that those of us who are working on the account are complying with the accounting policies that we have in place and ensure everything is running smoothly. All of our employees are cross-trained to ensure that there's seamless rotation. Anytime someone's out of the office due to sickness or on vacation, there's always someone else going to be there who can handle that job function and allow everything to run smoothly. Additionally, we're a member of the New York and New Jersey condo associations, and we're in the process of doing a benchmarking of the financial performance of the Galaxy in comparison to other homeowner associations, which is not something we're obligated to do, but we wanted to take that extra step, to just add more value to what we do. Now here I'm going to, up on the screen, which is in your packets, this is Schedule A. Now this front sheet is a snapshot of where we stand for the 6 months ended of June for 2015. As you can see, what we have is our bottom line. We're about $34,000 below the budget for the year, which can be related to seasonality. Our big line item that you can see at the very top is electricity. We're about $85,000 below budget in this category, which was largely related to the high electric costs that we saw at the beginning of the year in the cold weather months. These numbers have been dropping as the weather's gotten better and there's been less of a need for electricity. We're thinking that this is going to fall into place right where we had with the budget based on the recent trends in the previous months. Really no need to get into the remaining detail on this. It's all in the packet in the 3 pages following this tab for the further breakdown of all the accounts shown above. If you flip through a couple more pages, this is Schedule C in your packets. It's the R&R, repair and replacement for the year of 2015 so far. As you can see on the bottom, we have the total budgeted amount is $3 million. Incurred to date through June is approximately $1.4 million. The other projects you can see on the top, not gotten to them yet. Not sure if that's something we need to get into. If it is, it's timing. And Joe, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think there are major projects that the board has in the pipeline right now related to. We just received some analysis from an engineer regarding the horseshoe driveway, as well as selecting a designer for the hallway. So when you look at those 2 line items at the top, and Frank had spoke to the boilers regarding the last meeting and how the heat exchanges seem to be the urgent issue more than the boilers. The boilers are old, but they're more repairable as the, again, I'm not completely, an electrician and and of that nature, but it seems to be that the priority is more on the heat exchanges and the system of the hot water system and the water system through the galaxy versus the boilers, where the boilers can survive. So we are looking at potentially getting, we're really trying to research on that side of the boilers before we go out and spend money on the boilers. So that kind of speaks to a lot of the top projects that were in the budget.
Yes.
We were told at a board meeting, we were working with the designer for our hallways, and the designer was fired. And you're showing to date, we've spent $1,180. I'm sure that designer cost us more money. Where is it in this statement?
I can answer that. The designer wasn't fired. The designer failed to enter into a reasonable contract with us to complete the design. In 2014, that designer, Lavoisier, was awarded a $11,000 and change contract to measure the hallways and bring the design to its first stages, the design concept stage. He completed that. The next phase was being negotiated, and he failed to continue to negotiate in good faith. We presented him with a reasonable contract, and he failed to respond to it. After several weeks, we moved on and vetted, starting with 22 design firms, and we selected Mancini Duffy just last week as the design committee, that is, selected Mancini Duffy. This will be proposed to the board at the August meeting. The board will have an opportunity to be asked to award a contract to Mancini Duffy to complete the design.
Could you just explain how much you paid the other designer and when it was paid? Because this is showing $1,180.
Well, I wasn't personally involved in that, but it's about right. I believe there was a $10,000 and roughly a $2,000 commitment, so for a total of about $12,000. And that work, by the way, that he did, again, he measured, quantified the entire job, and presented a design concepts that we're using as a springboard to move forward. So his initial contract was completed, but that was only the very early stages of design development. This design contract will cost from between $120,000 to $180,000 if memory serves. Some of that is variable, and it's based on the time commitment of the designer during the construction phase. So that's why the range. But this, for $10,000, you got what that designer was contracted to do.
When did we pay the 10? That's my question.
I wouldn't know that off the top of my head. We can get back to you on that.
That would have been paid last year.
2014, okay.
And again, the work, we are leveraging the work that they performed to, hand that over to the new designers so that when they look at the hallways, they're going to, be able to leverage the work that was already performed. And the board, I believe, I can only speak for myself, but I think the board looked at this as potentially wide range of money depending on, which designer you ask and which, but, at the low end, you're talking $3 million, and from the high end, depending on what you want to replace in your hallways and how many bells and whistles, it could go up to $6 million. But, for $10,000, $11,000 in, the board wasn't going to go down the wrong path. They're going to, leverage the work that they had learned, and I think the board picked a great committee of a homeowner who's a designer, another homeowner who's used to doing, project management, who's big, has done big designs and things of this nature before, as well as a couple board members on the committee, and every board member has been invited to the meeting. So I think, the first round was a good learning opportunity, and we're going to cut things off if it doesn't look like it's the right fit. This is it's a major project and expense for the building.
Can you identify those people that are on the committee?
Yeah, hang on just a second. Tom, are you finished with your presentation?
I have one more schedule.
Okay, let him finish with his presentation, please.
I have a question on this page.
Yeah, let him finish with his presentation.
Now on the screen, this is Schedule E in your packets, if anyone would like to turn to that. This is our accounts receivable schedule. As you can see, the grand total on the bottom, the gross bad, the receivables is approximately 4.5 million, but we do also have the $4 million being allocated to the bad debt reserve in the allowance. It's only showing the net amount of $505,000 as part of the accounting policy. That's all I have. If anyone has any further questions. Yes.
Going back to the schedule you just had for some projects, you have spa facility repairs. Amount occurred for June, 43 and change, balance due, amount 43 and change. What repairs, I don't know if you know, frankly, what repairs plus 43, what happened in the spa that we spent $40,000 to repair?
That's not something I would know off the
No,
top of my head.
so I'm asking Frank, I guess.
I would be more than happy to follow up with you on that tomorrow. I can look into the detail and we can get back to you.
Can Frank not
unless-
answer that? I'm sure he knows.
Actually, I don't recall off the top of my head. I don't recall.
How about our treasurer? Maybe he knows.
Do you know?
Yeah, it's something we can get back to you on. I know we don't have all the details
Yeah,
here for
I
every
have it all the
account,
time.
but we'll certainly get back to you on it.
Yeah,
I'll
thank
make a
you.
note of the question. I can tell you there'll be a lot more of it in the months to come. There's an atrium glass project. It's $314,000. We'll be starting in the middle of this month. There'll be much detail on that in the weekly update at the end of the week. And we'll also be installing new air conditioning systems for the spa and other common areas. So there's several $100,000 in projects that have been incubated over the last several months that will be coming to fruition starting this month and in September.
Yes.
I'm just curious, in those projects, when you say the common areas with the heating and air conditioning, are any of those going to be the adjoining tower on the garage floors? Because I live on 15, it's a garage floor, and it's an adjoining, and it's exceptionally cold because in the wintertime, the garage is very cold, and the hallways are extremely cold on the garage floors, to the point of where I will not even go down and use the pool half the year because I'm frozen when I come up and I get sick all the time. And I'm just curious.
Yes,
I
the
used to
answer
have
is
them-
yes. There's 7 large HVAC heating and air conditioning units that are being replaced with brand new. We own all the units. We have a contract in place for their installation. It will affect the 20th floor, or I'm sorry, the lobby floor on down. So the lower part of all the 3 towers and the connecting buildings, all those systems will be replaced with new, also including the spa exercise rooms, which have been a constant problem.
Because just a point of interest, I mean, in the old days, you know, when I moved here, there was actually like HVAC and heating units in every single corridor. Now, I know they took them away because of, because of the price. Basically, they didn't want to spend the money on electricity. But it was just a beautiful thing when you could walk into a heated corridor or a cool corridor, in a building, a high-end building supposedly, and.
Those electric units you see in the connecting building hallways will be addressed as part of the hallway project.
Oh, that's great.
So many of those will be replaced. In fact, they'll all be replaced with new, I believe, as part of the project. It's one of the considerations, certainly something that I think is long overdue. We'll weigh that with all the other priorities that we'll consider when prices start to come together, and that will happen in September.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
Frank, one question. The upper floors are so hot that one day, I don't know why, they took 2 elevators and I had to stay. I have a breathing problem and I was in trouble. I went back home and I took some medication because I couldn't stay anymore. Would you explain how long, please do something about it. And thank you in advance.
Okay, yes, we will do something about it. I hear you. After the meeting, please let me know what floors in which tower you're talking about.
It
There
was
has been-
Tower 2
Perhaps.
also.
No, I'm speaking Tower 3, 28A. I'm speaking over the lobbies. If you come, it's really, really hot. When it was outside 80, 90, you can't breathe even on those floors.
How do you rise?
Okay.
I second that, 32B.
Yeah.
And Tower 2, 31st floor.
Don't want to deny the way your apartment.
Thank you.
Any other financial questions of that
No.
nature? Yes.
Can I go back to something that you mentioned before about moving the funds? I think you were looking into moving the funds. I think you said from the Bank of America to TD Bank, if I heard you correctly. If I heard you correctly, did you say moving the funds from Bank of America to TD?
So right now, our funds are in Bank of America and Banco
Right,
Popular.
so my question was, are you also moving the funds from Banco Popular? Because I thought I just heard you say Bank of America. So I wanted to clarify that.
The first step is to get the operating fund from Bank of America into TD Bank,
Okay.
so that we can establish a relationship with them. TD Bank seems to be a bank that's more of a mid-size, where Bank of America seems to be a large corporation bank. So in the process of moving the operating funds there, we're also going to get the benefit of a bank that fits our size for the operating fund. The second step was to look at the potential investment policy, and we're talking with the investment group from TD Bank to get an exact investment policy for the board of directors of the Galaxy, so that there would be actually a set investment policy for the Galaxy. So that would be phase 2. But first is to establish a relationship with TD Bank to make sure everything's okay.
Joe, you're right about Bank of America because businesses, big, not big, middle class, the Bank of America is terrible to work with. I cannot work with them. So I agree with you. I don't know, TD, whatever you take, I hope they are good. You know, if not, we change it again. It's no big deal.
The new accounting department has questioned Bank of America, asking if they could do the same things TD Bank could do, and the fees were materially more to keep our same business, where in the new TD Bank world, we anticipate it to be a lot of online, where the board, all board members will actually have access to go anytime live onto our account to see what's going on and have that visibility and transparency. And as well as it currently, with Bank of America, anybody in the accounting department can transfer money. Whereas with the new TD Bank world, that will stop and it won't be able to transfer unless a board member. So the accounting department will be able to initiate the transaction, but it won't be able to go anywhere until a board member or two, depending on the dollar threshold. If it's $10,000 or more, it needs 2 board member approvals. But currently with Bank of America, the accounting department can transfer money between accounts or externally, without necessarily a board approval if it's a wire transfer versus a check. All checks need board member signatures. $10,000 they need 2, less than $10,000 they need 1. But wire transfers was the internal control that was kind of missed, where the accounting firm and our prior accounting department could have wire transferred money without board approval, and that's going to be a loophole that's shut down with TD Bank.
Yes.
Can I just get some clarity, because I just don't understand? And, sure, it's something simple. Under the mall, right, where it says bankruptcy, and then it says gross, and then it says bad debt reserve, and then the net. I just don't understand the terms of, what's the difference between what is the bad debt reserve? I don't understand what that is. I'm sorry.
We have to understand that this is something that's been accumulated over time,
Right.
and that the bad debt reserve is an allowance for payments that are not fully expected to be collected.
It's allowance, so people will understand. If you have that, you take the same amount and you put it on the side. I think so, you call it allowance. You tell us.
So, right now with the mall bankruptcy, excluding the parking,
Right.
the mall had owed us money, they weren't paying it, the units went under, basically. We're still working with the bankruptcy trustee, and we anticipate on receiving approximately $150,000. So that's what you're seeing, that net number of $150,000. The rest of the money was written off and included in our financials in 2013.
Oh, okay, so the bad debt reserve was written off.
Exactly. Once you see bad debt reserve, that means it's in your books, you've already included that as an expense.
Right.
So now it's just sitting on your books. If you get it,
Right.
if somehow we got more than the 150, let's just say we got $200,000 somehow, don't anticipate it, but I'm saying if we did,
Yeah.
you would see an unplanned $50,000 in revenue because we would have to capture that as unplanned revenue, basically.
I see. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand the difference in the mall with the bankruptcy. That was one owner, and then there were units that were okay, they're not bankrupt. However, they owe us over $207,000 in parking fees, and I'd like to know what we're doing about that.
Is there an interest?
The board is working with the mall. There's a difference of opinion, and it's a matter of, honestly, it's a matter of personal opinion. In the past, maybe if you want to go back to the 1980s and 1990s, it was an asset to have the mall here and to tell potential buyers, hey, we have an ATM, we have a pharmacy, we have a convenience store, we have restaurants. But if you drive down River Road now, there's a CVS, there's a Home Goods, there's a Ben & Jerry. There are numerous, every complex they're building now has exactly what we have. So we have to work with the mall to try to build up this mall. If we want to kill the mall and make it bankrupt and have this, empty hole in the middle of our complex, we can do that. We can push them into bankruptcy. This board, is working with legal to try to say, hey, you're saying your parking is too high, you're not getting that many visitors, so you're overpaying. And we're saying, well, that's in the contract. And they're saying that contract has been here forever. So we need to maybe revisit the contract and come to an agreement so that we can influence other businesses, maybe get another staple place in that mall to, to inject some revenues into that mall, to make that mall lively. Again, I'm not a retail person, but my understanding between your rent and between your maintenance, it's extremely challenging for malls to be profitable per the square foot, cost per space in that revenue mall is extremely high and extremely challenging, and it's hurtful to the building. Let's just say you could somehow, by a miracle, get a Starbucks in there, or a Subway, or some staple that would say, hey, we want to be in this mall, we want to make this mall lively again. We all benefit. I look at the mall, and this is my personal opinion, I'm one board member, we all succeed or we all fail together. If the mall goes down, it's going to look just like the movie theater. And sadly, I had one opportunity, my wife lived here forever, I had one opportunity to attend a movie in that mall. I mean in the theater while it was a theater. And I've had one opportunity to visit the mall now. And it is extremely sad, it's a blast from the past, and it's kind of sad. And if you want all these businesses to go belly up and you want the board to take a hardline stance and say, you can't pay your parking, screw you guys, we're going to make you go bankrupt because you can't pay your parking. Or if you want this board to work with them and try to negotiate a rate to bring better businesses into this mall, so when potential buyers and other potential businesses want to go into that mall, we say, hey, we have a Starbucks here. Hey, we have a Subway here. We have a real business that decided to invest money into this retail space. You should do the same thing. There's a cost benefit to that. And this board is trying to straddle that line. Right now, the mall is paying their rent, and the Mall Merchants Association is paying the Galaxy the rent. The piece they're not paying, which has been accumulated over the years, and yes, I'm not going to say $200,000 is not a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and it's painful for each and every one of you and for me to go to work every day and have to pay that. But there's a fine line this board is trying to build this relationship with the mall and make the mall better and help us succeed, or to continue to have the Galaxy to outsiders look like an antiquated piece of real estate, which in my opinion is what it looks like right now, which is why properties on River Road are probably selling for $600,000 to over $1 million, and we can't sell an apartment for maybe $200,000. If you get $300,000, you're probably throwing a party as a potential seller right now. And it's 1 block away, and we have the best views, and we have the biggest floor plans, and we have the best amenities. If you look in the spa, find a place that has a better spa. Find a place that has an indoor and outdoor pool. We have the assets. We have the highest views. Some people's views may get blocked when smaller things are built, but the people, we have the New York skyline view, and we have buses that go past our apartment, like 5 lines. I started working in New York and appreciate the amenities that this building has for people that work in New York versus New Jersey. And taking the bus to New York, I sit on line poor people that go to Ridgefield have to wait and figure out what line. I'm like, hey, whatever bus it is, I'm hopping on and I'm home in 5 minutes.
I asked a question, and the question is, and I didn't say I want them all to go bankrupt. I want to clarify this. So your answer that you're saying some people. I agree with you, and most people agree. Of course, we want you to succeed, and if Starbucks or whoever said Subway, the mall people and their association should be seeking these people. I don't have a problem with that. The more money, the better. And just to clarify something, that agreement hasn't been in place forever. It's been in place since 2008 when the amended master deed took place and the separation. So this $208,000 has accrued. They may have been paying it at the beginning, maybe they're only accruing in the past couple of years, but it's not forever. It doesn't go back as far as you're alluding to.
Well, 7 years.
Oh, okay, well that's not forever. The mall is here forever.
Agreed.
7 years. So when the bankruptcy went over here, you had the units, they were sold, they stopped paying it off. And what I asked was what you were doing about it. Now, you thought about the mall. We all, unless someone's crazy, want the mall to succeed, we all like to see great stores. We want to frequent. But you really didn't answer my question.
And that's exactly, and as I mentioned, the board is trying to meet with the mall merchants associations and the leaders of the mall to try to push the mall back to profitability and desirability.
Some parking fees. That's one thing, and I agree with you.
Okay, let's move on, Mr. Chairman.
We are trying to get money. We're getting half the money, which is better than none of the money. And as I said, if you want to there's a fine line between pushing too hard and getting nothing and working with them and getting something. And that's what this board is trying to straddle, and it's a delicate situation.
Mr. Gailson, question over here?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you for recognizing me.
Sir.
I have a question for the young man with a military buzz cut.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I forgot your name, sir.
Tom.
Tom. Okay, Section A, it's a small amount of money compared to all these hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars everybody else is questioning. But board elections, on page 104, $29,000, and the detail of that is on page 3 or 4 on the board elections toward the top. Twofold question. Just curious, why wasn't the 14,000 plus budgeted? And secondly, what is the board elections legal $14,500 for? I don't remember an attorney elections.
This election was contested by 3 members, and with that, the board is obligated to pass it on to their attorney. It had to go back. This year, we had an election committee which didn't cost the Galaxy anything. People have been uncomfortable with homeowners running the election, so we had to hire an outside company, which is where the estimate when we built the budget was $10,000. Actually, it was more than that to actually get a company to come here and run our elections, and to then have the appeal process is what cost the legal fees as well as it did with the arbitrator.
So I just want to make myself, I want to be clear on this. So what this says is that the arbitration that these 3 people brought, and they had the right to do that, these 3 people brought cost more than it cost to run the election.
Wow.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Wow.
Next, any other questions? Yes.
Okay, regarding, well, first of all, Joe, for you, you said mall and rent. Since when do they pay us rent? Are you talking about maintenance that they owe us?
Correct. Semantics, yes. They pay the Merchants Association, the Merchants Association does. I'm sorry if I misled anybody with my verbiage.
Yes, they're not tenants. Okay, so then, sorry. So, if I remember properly, we get a late fee if we don't pay our maintenance, and we have a separate late fee if we don't pay our garage on time. And I believe there was a period where interest was added on top of that. Are we still charging interest, and if not, why? Why not? Anybody? Joe, you're the treasurer?
I can't speak to anything that happened before we came into the accounting firm of the Galaxy in October. I don't know what time period you're referring to specifically.
Well, Gail, am I correct that we were Richard, you're on the board, we used to charge interest on maintenance when it wasn't paid on time, on top of late fees?
I don't think we,
It's in the body.
don't believe we did.
Gail? Yes? No?
I don't believe
It's,
we charged them.
I don't believe we did either, and part of the reason is, let's just say you're in arrears. Let's just say now you're 4 months in arrears, 5 months in arrears. If you're 1 month in arrears and we charge you interest, it would be immaterial. But to your point, it's revenue to the building. But once you're in 4, 5, 6, and you're not going to pay us back, if we want to charge interest on top of that, we can, but it's almost like it's fake revenue to the homeowners, so we'll include it as revenue, but we know we're never going to see that cash, more than likely. Once you get to a certain extent, we still go after the homeowners. Maybe they sell, maybe we'll release the lien to let them sell, but we won't release their personal liability. But if you're 40, 50, even $20,000 in arrears, this is probably not your only debt. We have legal that looks and does asset checks and looks to garnish wages and things of that nature. We can include it, but in the current year that we're including it, it's gonna, for lack of a better word, it's going to falsify revenue. It's going to make it as if you have this revenue, which you can include in revenue, but from a cash flow perspective, if you're not paying me your maintenance, what are the odds that you're going to pay me that revenue, that interest? You're not going to pay it. So I'm telling the owners, sure, you're going to have this and this, but from a cash flow perspective, if I'm relying on that on my bills, I'm not going to have the cash to pay the bills, which means that your allowance for doubtful accounts is just going to increase. So it's a policy perspective of the board. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yes.
I don't have my eyeglasses, so could you tell me exactly what the cost of that arbitration was?
I don't believe the arbitration is broken out specifically. If my memory serves me, it was probably between, the Galaxy portion of it was probably between approximately $3,700, maybe less, 3 to 4. But once the arbitration took place, it automatically had to be escalated to legal counsel of the Galaxy. If board members had any information on that at that time, they could have informed legal counsel to potentially save costs. But legal counsel had to go back to the bylaws and do research, and there were legal costs incurred with this because the election committee, B, the outside company, which is independent, that we hired to manage the elections, all said the elections were fair. Therefore, then our attorney has to look at the election, and by the time he gets the complaint to see what it is, then he has to research it and make a decision. So there were arbitration costs and there were legal costs to this, to the appeals of the election, which in tune probably came to approximately $19,000 in total.
Can I just put something out there? I agree with you on the mall, and I want to just be positive in this room about the mall. And I was thinking something where it's not so much the burden of the board at first to come up with the ideas. Is it possible to poll the owners and ask them what they would like to see, you know, with the mall in terms of just things in there? And then I wanted to mention that at one point, I'm gonna like relate it to the bus. We had a bus and we would give a discount packet. If you bought them a discount, you could ride our bus. Now, since the mall owes us money, is it possible for us to say to the mall, we will sell these packets to homeowners to come buy, you know, a dinner or a panitas or whatever it is, or get your hair done, or get your nails done, and there will be a discount package of like 10 coupons, and we will subsidize that by taking some money off the debt you owe us. So in a sense, we're just like, we're not even like spending money because we probably won't even see that money anyways, but to them it seems like, you know, we're giving them something at the mall, and more people come down and use the services because they'll be getting discounts. I mean, it's a small thing, but.
I think it's a great idea, and I think these small ideas add up to, you know, every small idea, if there's 10, 20 small ideas, they add up to big things, and I think it's important, and I think, you know, I think there are other board members here, and we should take note of that and consider it.
On that same note, the town is implementing a bus, a loop, to go and bring people to the Bergen Line Avenue businesses. Why can't that loop work both ways? So maybe it picks up people from other buildings and brings them to the mall, so they don't have to park.
I believe, I don't know about other towns, but I know the Galaxy is a stop, so part of my understanding was if you're on Bergen Line and you want to get to the Galaxy or you want to get to the new park on River Road, you don't have to walk down, you know, down that hill or even down from, you know, Bergen Line to here. And the same for Galaxy residents, if they want to go shopping on Bergen Line or if there's something going on and you want to enjoy the park. So there are stops in all places so everybody can take advantage. And I hope as that kind of implements itself, people understand it's not just an event bus, but it's a productivity bus for the town and businesses and for everybody to take advantage of.
It's not just a senior citizen bus either.
Exactly, this is for everybody.
I think a lot of people are mistaken that it's only for senior citizens.
And I think that point should be clarified because I think, you know, part of the concert tomorrow night is going to be on Boulevard East, and maybe, I don't know for sure, but maybe part of that decision was the concern of people getting to the park. The park is beautiful, but if you have a baby stroller, you're not going to walk down Ferry Road with it or walk up Ferry Road with it. So I think this is the opportunity for people that aren't just down on River Road to enjoy that park. We're all part of Gothenburg as well. So I think
Advertising to come and eat in the mall or spend your money in the mall. A little bit more push.
And I think, you know, again, there are board members here. I see Justin smiling about it. He's all about advertising and getting the word out there. So I think, you know, as we're hearing these ideas and as these new things come up for the town, I definitely think the board should promote it and take advantage of these opportunities.
Okay, folks, it's about 10 minutes to 10. If there's anyone that hasn't had a chance to speak, anyone new? Yes, yes.
I just want to thank Joe for the diligence in the last 2 years. Thank you.
I want to ask something.
Yes.
Joe, and I go home. Joe, if you really want, you really can explain to people, and it makes me really happy, and I'm willing to listen to you and make my mind by myself. And we should all of us be calm, disregardless from which kind of politics you are. Okay, so I will do something very nice, and I will tell you. I have a recommendation for you, and I'm sure you want to hear from homeowner, since you have $186,000, which is an excess of revenue over expenses, right? So why not try to found some way the Apple View? I will tell you, we are many crazy people in Tower 3, and we are terrified. Maybe we are wrong, you know, but when you read in the newspapers and you find out in California and in all those places what is happening. I have two people, good friends of me, that move out because they are terrified about this gas line. I have another friend that she's also thinking because of the gas now. How about if you, all the board, try to embrace Tower 3 somehow? Not, to show that we are all a big community and we want to be happy all. We might disagree, but it doesn't mean that we cannot be to survive and say hello and to move on with our lives. Doesn't matter how. We always, even in this meeting, try to point fingers. Let's move on from someplace and try to work for the galaxy. And I really thank you for tonight. Some of the questions you really answered to my taste, as I say, in accounting. And I don't have a problem really if you say, and like you explained what to do with Bank of America and this, and I got it, that it takes time is a procedure, but I don't know those things. So I think that everything is in black.
Okay.
All right?
Can you wrap up, please? There's
Yes,
another question
I will.
here waiting.
So
Thanks.
I hope that you will embrace Tower 3 about the Apple view and reconsider all the board and try all to work together and not try to be divided as we are today.
Question?
Joe, thank you for the Joe and you all, thank you for the financials. I have got a question because a homeowner approached me and said that we are losing money. As a board director, I know that we are not losing money, and I looked at all the financials. So I just wanted to ask you why, do you know of losing any money, or this is part of those, anonymous emails going around?
This is a hot topic tonight for several owners. I know you asked, so I'll address the Banco Popular. I've had homeowners come up to me. Actually, tonight on my way down, somebody said, did we lose $2 million? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not attacking anybody when I say this, but this is my issue with anonymous emails. There are emails out there, and when I said before, property values down on River Road are $600,000, property values here are $200,000. What do you think when emails get in the hands of potential buyers that say, your treasurer is corrupt, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's the mayor's son, he's this, he's that. These are repercussions of anonymous emails and not putting your name to it and not keeping things in-house. I have no problem with anybody here tonight talking to me, asking questions. Everybody has different opinions, and there's 100 ways to solve a problem. But the email that went out basically said, Treasurer Purcell has it wrong again and is lying to the homeowners, and Banco Popular, he said Banco Popular is a U.S. bank, and it's a Puerto Rican bank. So I wanted to address it tonight. I think it's important enough. There's $4 million in our R&R, which I think everybody in the room would agree is a good problem to have, over $4 million. I want to let everybody in the room also know that if you're going to do the driveway and you're going to do the hallways, $4 million is going to go just as quickly as it came, but at least it's going to be adding value to our properties. So what I want to say about Banco Popular, first, I've had accusations about me saying I broke rules, I broke the bylaws. The board had to go to John Haig to say, does Joe Purcell or does the controller have rights to move money between existing accounts? John Haig, the Galaxy attorney, said, absolutely, you have rights. When I got on the board, there was money moved all over the place, and nobody was held accountable, and no anonymous emails were going out saying, board members moved money between R&R and operating fund accounts. When I got on the board, I wanted to simplify things. You need an R&R account, you need an operating account, you need a payroll account, and you need your main account for when everybody pays their maintenance to let it go in and divvy up these different payments so that they're going to the appropriate places. And quite honestly, from an audit perspective, it's easy to follow the money. That's all I wanted. As far as my statement saying Banco Popular is a U.S. bank. I don't believe our money is at risk. I took a history lesson. Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, so anybody that is born in Puerto Rico is a U.S. citizen and has the right to move to any state they want within the United States. You don't need to get a green card. You're a U.S. citizen. If you live in Puerto Rico, you cannot vote for president, but you are a U.S. citizen. Puerto Rican banks operate within the legal jurisdiction of the United States and have the protection of the regulatory oversight, including FDIC insurance, intervention of the Federal Reserve and FDIC, which is how the U.S. government in approximately 2008, I know I bore you because I'm nerdy and I was obsessed with the financial crisis of 2008. I've said it time and time again, not one fine, anybody in this room, I beg of you because I would be thrilled to read about it. Find me anybody from 2008 to today that had cash in a bank that the United States government said, it's over the FDIC insurance limits, you can't have your money. Please, I beg of all of you, please find that for me. But I ask you, this is a Puerto Rican bank, which is a territory of the United States. If you want to say I misspoke, I truly do apologize to you. It was semantics, as Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. If the United States government didn't believe in Puerto Rico, why would the FDIC insure any deposits in Puerto Rican banks? Why would they have given Banco Popular a TARP loan when the financial crisis occurred to protect that bank from going under so that there wouldn't be a run for the banks and other banks that the U.S. government protected during that time period? It would have caused a Greece crisis here. And if you don't believe me, do your research and look back in 2008. You think Greece is bad today. If the government didn't force specific banks to consolidate and have backroom meetings and force other banks to buy banks at that time so that the assets in those banks, everybody wouldn't run to the bank today and say, give me all my money. Didn't happen. It happened, believe me. I know. I speak too much about it. So the next thing I want to say is in June of 2015, when this crisis in Puerto Rico was known, Popular Bank submitted its stress testing to the Federal Reserve. The Dodd-Frank Stress Act, known as DFAST, requires banks within $10 to $50 billion in assets to comply. Popular tested their macro conditions specific to the issues in Puerto Rico, not just the standards that the Federal Reserve requires, but they went above and beyond for this stress test. They used a criteria which was greater than the worst case scenario required by the Fed. For GDP contractions, the Fed requires 1.1 pullback. Popular did 3.3, so it did 3 times the size of the restriction of GDP. For unemployment rate, the Fed requires that you do 10%. Popular Bank did 19% of unemployment. And through these exercises, which is required to be committed to the Federal Reserve so that the Federal Reserve will FDIC insure your money after the financial crisis of 2008, Banco Popular passed the test, and it was noted that they're highly capitalized to handle severe conditions. After this anonymous email went out saying that Treasurer Purcell is risking all of our money, I wish to God today I would have went out and bought Banco Popular stock, because anonymous people that don't have the guts to put their name to it, in my opinion, don't know what they're talking about. And I would have made a 7% return because I think Wall Street is smarter than anonymous people not willing to put their money out, because when Banco Popular came out with their earnings, their stock popped 7% that day, showing that they're capitalized. And even with everything that's going on in Puerto Rico, if you think you're smarter than Wall Street, maybe you are, because Wall Street has shown that they make a lot of mistakes. But they believe that Banco Popular has come a long way. They paid off their TARP loan to the United States government on their own. They've now passed their stress test. They had successful earnings, And the other thing that I think is misinformation and scary when owners come to me as a board member, if anybody else is a board member and says, Joe, did you lose us $2 million? And I'm like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? This is how the telephone game works when nobody's held accountable. And unfortunately for fortunately we are held accountable, but you can be blindsided by homeowners that hear things from a third source. And what if these emails, or what if these people are talking to potential people out there, hearing that we're losing all this money? This is damaging to our property, it's hurting our property, and the money is in the bank. We are working with the accounting department. And it says, I refuse to diversify. Now, what John Hay did say as an opinion, I can move money between existing accounts. As treasurer, I cannot open up a new bank account, so it takes the board to open up a new bank account, and the board is working with accounting to open up a new bank account. But I would recommend to the board, don't just say, TD Bank, you opened us up, here's $5 million. I would say, TD Bank, you made us promises. Let's get the operating fund. Let's go a month or two. Let's make sure you're backing those promises. And then work with them to get the investment policy so that the money is safe and earning the most interest. And that's my take on it. So, quite honestly, I looked it up. The direct exposure that Banco Popular has to, I believe, the governor of Puerto Rico said there's $72 billion that they don't believe they'll be able to pay back. Banco Popular Bank, a Puerto Rican bank that has United States subsidiaries that are all backed by the United States government, has $673 million of direct exposure to those loans, and they have $37 billion in assets right now. So I'm not saying whether diversifying cash, which before being on a board treasurer, I never heard of diversifying cash, I'll be honest with you. I do know the Federal Reserve limits of $250,000. I've heard of diversifying your retirement account. I've heard of not buying all stock in the company you work for. I've heard of buying mutual funds and oil and mutual funds and technology, diversifying investments. I've quite honestly never heard of diversifying cash. And I would love to find somebody that has multi-million dollars to find out if they have 50 bank accounts that all have $250,000 in them. But that said, and I'm not making, I agree. This is our money. I hope now that we have the new board members on board and they're very proactive and pushing towards getting things done, I think we are going to spend some of this money and recoup it and continue to put the money back into the building. But I do believe Banco Popular was worth being addressed. I think it's important as homeowners that if people are saying we're losing money, that's important to correct them. And I think it's important to let people outside of our community not hear all this negativity and bad things, because in my honest opinion, that's one of the most damaging things to our property.
I see there are two directors waiting to speak. First, Mr. Mack, and then followed by Mr. Miller, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Thank you. Joe, I want to start off by thanking you for all your hard work. I believe that you are doing a great job as a treasurer. I wouldn't want anyone else to be our treasurer, that's for sure. You seem very good at numbers. And I've seen emails about our operating fund compared to 2008, but they exclude using the bad debt, the legal fees, and energy in comparing operating funds from 2008 to today. Why would they not include those line items in the operating fund?
Again, these emails come from an anonymous source, so unfortunately I cannot ask the source. They use the word normalized, which I'll ask anybody in the audience, do you care if I pull out expenses, yet I'm still asking you to pay for them? So I don't comprehend why you would pull them out. What I will say is, part of the email noted they saved $1 million by firing 60 employees and outsourcing. But let's exclude the legal fees, because there were over $1 million in legal fees to the NLRB, so if you included them, it would bring it back up to par. Let's exclude the bad debt, because we decided to, during 2008 again, I will say it again, I'm nerdy and I was obsessed with the financial crisis. I saw many friends get fired. I saw many friends not get a raise. But in 2008, the decision by the board was to pay off the loan and escalate maintenance rates to the highest that were ever seen at the Galaxy. Again, you can say, and I'll agree, not having debt on your books is a good thing, but at what cost? So if you want to exclude bad debt, I'll ask each and every homeowner, if you want to go back and visit your financials, go back to 2006. Let's go back to 2005. Well, why don't we go back to the beginning of time? But if you go back to prior to 2008, which is the number 2007, 2006, they like to use, look at your bad debt and look at your bad debt with the loan payoff. Again, I'm not saying paying off the loan was a bad thing, but if you ask anybody that decided to pay off the bad debt, I find it kind of sad that they will not acknowledge the correlation between bad debt and paying off the loan. There's a cost benefit. And if you want to add, my maintenance when I moved here was approximately $1,100 a month. At the peak, it was $1,900. Where was I going to find $800 a month when I may not have been getting a raise because of this financial crisis, or I may have lost my job? Again, I'm not saying paying off the debt was a bad thing. I'm saying acknowledge that there were repercussions to getting this building debt free. So why wouldn't you want to exclude the legal? Because there was a board of director lawsuit that cost us $1 million. But we don't want to include that because we don't want to take responsibility. Maybe, I don't know, I can't ask. We don't want to include bad debt because paying off the loan related to, there's a clear direct correlation between paying off the loan and bad debt, so we strip that out. Energy, I have been beaten up for taking away the energy pass-through. But as this board had to manage to a full budget, not doing assessments or credits each month, so 25% of the budget was stripped out, so they're managing to 75% of a budget because I'm assessing or truing up 25% of my budget each month. We came in with a surplus in 2014, not knowing what the energy would be. So we managed to the budget. If the energy was over, we looked at other areas. I can't explain why I would say you want to normalize expenses when to me, any expense that's coming out of my pocket, I want to know about and I want to be counted. The other thing is, I believe there's a direct difference between me and prior boards in R&R and operating fund. I've been accused of raising operating fund, and I believe that the operating fund is something that has been mishandled. I believe that there's an operating fund and there's an R&R. And if you don't put money in the operating fund and take care of the behind-the-scenes things with routine maintenance and giving raises to employees, you're going to have a problem. When I got on the board, the maintenance group didn't receive a raise for 5 years and they've been out of contract. This board this year finally gave them a contract. How do you expect employees to want to go above and beyond and work hard for you if they're making the same thing they were 5 years ago? Other board members say, well, maybe we gave you a bonus. But you don't know about that bonus until the end of the year, and guess what? A bonus isn't guaranteed, so you don't know what you're getting. You want to know that you can provide for your family, get a reasonable raise, you work hard, and there's motivation to that. I believe, and I've always used the analogy, I can go and buy the greatest car in the world and love it, it's beautiful, I got it painted. But if I never get an oil change and take care of routine maintenance, it can't leave my driveway. And that's the difference between working on the operating fund, which is why right now I believe we're seeing all these breaks with the floods in the apartments, because things, I believe that routine maintenance in the past was to keep maintenance down and not provide routine maintenance. And this board is providing routine maintenance. This board has been abused for the accounting department. But when I got on the board, I couldn't get financials for 5 months. How is Frank supposed to work when he doesn't have financials for 5 months and know how much money you spent? So there is a direct difference, and people will agree or disagree. But I believe, I look at the budget as a whole. I don't look at it as R&R, and I don't look at it as operating fund. So when people go back and strip things out and go back in time, I believe in rewarding your employees so that they want to do better, they like the homeowners, and they have drive to achieve and know that they're going to be rewarded for that. And I believe in doing routine maintenance in a building that was built in the 70s so that it doesn't deteriorate. And I also believe in trying to make a balance with being able to do R&R, which are the big sexy projects, which people want to see, which maybe we can't do as much because I want to put more money in the operating fund so that the building's functioning properly.
By
Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Miller has been waiting. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Miller has been waiting.
I would like.
I'll come back to you.
Okay.
You're out of order. Please, Mr. Miller.
Yes, I'll make it brief. You're right about Puerto Rico, but you're wrong. There's other additional items. Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, is not subject to the bankruptcy laws of the United States. I did some research too. Detroit filed bankruptcy, they were covered, they were allowed to. Puerto Rico cannot file bankruptcy, that's why you have a problem with the $72 billion that's owed and how it'll flow down to the banks. That's just one thing. I won't take up too much extra time, but I'll just comment on a few other things you said, because there's two sides to every story. The workers didn't get a raise in 5 years because we were negotiating a contract, and while we were with the NLRB, we could not negotiate a contract. The union and the workers were aware of it. The union was aware. Nothing could be done. Everything was settled, so we negotiated with them. As far as you said, you believe the operating fund was mishandled previously, if I understood you correctly. The primary thing we had to do was pay off the loan. By paying off the loan, we built the foundation now that we can have $4.5 million in reserves. So that's the most important thing. The other thing is the operating fund is about $1 million more than it was 2 years ago. And whether we have leaky pipes or anything, that's a function of the age of the building. So I don't have anything else.
I want to say only one thing, because if we wouldn't have paid, what I wanted really, but he took it from me, if we wouldn't have paid up the loan, Joe, you wouldn't have done hallways and all the goodies that you do today, and you can give us, because if you look to the plan, the truth, it is that how people, it was for the next 3 years, if we would have taken on the board, how much money they would have get back from the maintenance. So when you say something, I agree with you. You have to look to the whole picture. You might disagree that we shouldn't have paid back the loan. I don't have a problem with this at all. But accusing us that we did this, we did that, other board will come will accuse you.
I didn't accuse anybody.
Yes.
All I said is there's two different ways to look at it. I said,
yes,
either you pay off the loan and the bad debt wouldn't have been as bad, or you don't, you don't. That's the difference.
Listen, Joe, you didn't answer me about owners will want to know about Appleview.
Okay, thank you all for coming. With that, the meeting's over.